Thank you so much for being on the call. I want you guys to be able to communicate because class goes better. Class goes better that way when you can communicate. We'll give it a few more minutes. Got 5 more minutes. Let's talk a little bit. Tell me how long you've been in real estate, and I want to make the next 4 weeks. This black belt class is going to be 4 weeks long. I'll give you the dates and all that in a little bit, and there'll be a way for you to continue.
So I've been in real estate for 7 years. I just switched to Keller Williams from Century 21 in September.
Awesome. Where are you located?
Panama City, Florida.
Wow, nice, nice. I taught Bold and Destin.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jeff's Market Center up there. So welcome to Keller Williams, and hello, you're in Central Time.
Yes, we are in Central.
Yeah. You went through Bold October?
I did. I just finished it, and it was great. You know, very, very beneficial. Really love the scripting. That's something that I have never been exposed to. And especially something that's very, very new to me is the question-based communication. I've never communicated that way.
Yes, and it's something that I kind of stumbled upon. It's not new, obviously. They've got books out called Question-Based Selling, and I used to be a little intimidated by all this. I'll tell you a little more about me. I've been selling homes for 37 years, and then over the last year or so, the class kind of got kind of evolved, and the concept has really caught on. And I'm really passionate about sharing this art with you guys. So I don't want to keep repeating myself. I'll wait till we get people on. There was about 30 people or so. We'll see. Excuse me 1 second. All right, so we got Dalian. All right, I'm giving everyone the ability to talk. Peggy, you're able to talk. Dalian. Am I saying that right?
Well, you're definitely saying Peggy right.
I'm from Ohio. I can do Peggy.
Right? Yep. So thank you for your time and giving us these sessions. We very much appreciated.
Yeah, I've been really looking forward to this. Really, I've been teaching scripting a couple days a week since COVID hit, and then I saw so many people getting so hungry for it during Bold.
Totally.
I want to take you to another level, and you can't do it in a chat. And I've got to hats off to you guys, because I know there's a lot of people that are timid. They don't want to, oh, please don't put me on the spot. Yet you're in business, and then you're going to practice on a live customer. What does that cost? Exactly. So this is a safe environment, you guys.
Oh, this is great. Thank you.
2 more minutes. So anything right now, you guys say hello to me. Let me know where you are, where your business is. Maybe, this is I can tailor make this class to things you're working on. I've got some things prepared, although Zoom classes are so much more fun if you give me some real life situations you're going through. And
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. I've been with Keller Williams and in the real estate industry for about 18 months. Every day is a new day, still sucking up as much knowledge as I can. Your Bold class was phenomenal, and I was excited when I saw the opportunity to even get more.
Okay, thanks, Peggy. Anybody else brave enough to come alive and speak?
Hi, Denny. I'm Dalen Mills. I'm with the Miami Shores office in Miami.
351?
I don't know.
Oh, that's okay. Ah, yes. How long have you been in real estate?
5 years now.
Nice. And you just finished Bold?
Mostly part-time.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
You just finished Bold October?
Yeah, I did Bold October and I did Bold August. I think I did both, yeah.
All right. Well, there'll be people popping on. We'll get started here in just right now. It's 4 o'clock. So thank you so much. I'm very prompt, respectful of your time. Thanks for taking advantage of the opportunity. Believe me, it's really my pleasure to be able to talk to you guys. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So some slides that I want to go through and some dates I want to give you. So I just trust this works as it should. And I'm going to go here. Here. Oh, there you go. Are you guys seeing that slide?
Yes.
Yes,
You see it?
yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So let's get started here. And I am going to, I will share my screen a little bit and I go back. If somebody comes in and you don't have a microphone, I'll have to do that here in just a second. Couple things really quick. You guys, there's a difference between script practice and role play. What I want to do in this class is work on a lot of role play scenarios. So let you see how it's done. You know, watching someone play golf, watching someone, macrame for that, you learn. And the difference between script practice and role play is this. And I trust you have a script partner. A script partner you don't just do during Bold. I can tell you after I've been in real estate 37 years, 37 years I've got an experience. And Gary Keller says the top 5 things is going to be lead generate, lead follow-up, set appointments, negotiate contracts, practice, and role play. Those are the 5 things that are job description, our top 20%. That's not the order we're supposed to do them. Practice and role play should be right after you brush your teeth. Skip brushing your teeth. Just work on your practice and role play because that will pay dividends. Now, the difference is this. If you have a script partner, awesome. If you don't, look at the people here on the class because you guys want to get better. I promise you, if you stick with this for 4 weeks, I'll give you the dates in a moment. And these will be recorded. I'll make sure that I'll find a way to make sure you have the recordings, not so you can slough off and watch Dr. Phil or play Candy Crush. I want you to understand, to master something, you have to do it. This is why I call this black belt, advanced black belt scripting, because, when you're a white belt, you learn a lot of different moves. And how long does it take you to master it, where it becomes second nature? So going back to the definition of role play and script practice. Script practice is when you have a script and I'm calling Peggy. Peggy, you're my partner. Okay, I'm working on my listing script. Hi, or maybe I'm calling my owners. Hi, Peggy, and then I'm going to read the script. Now, Peggy, what are you working on? You're working on maybe the same one, maybe something different. You're going to read the script, and for 30 minutes we read back and forth. Then, at the end, then we'll give each other a little bit of feedback. It's not a role play. That's how you internalize the script. Now, here's the 37 years is not really what I want you to know. This isn't what I want you to know. So my team, myself, in my 37 years, we've closed over 5,000 sales, and that's kind of a good thing, right? However, I've learned my lessons from the 10,000 or so people in my 30 plus years that did not buy from me. It's kind of like Thomas Edison learning what did not work with the light bulb, right? And so, like our friend John Maxwell says, he wrote a book called Sometimes You Win, Sometimes You Learn. And I definitely learned a lot. Now, during this class, I want to give you more than just words. I want to help you understand the physics. Write this down unless you're driving. The physics of real estate. Because I believe that I can share some things with you that will make you better at what you do. Because if you understand the way this business works, that it's basically built on physics, it works every time. It'll help you get away from the fact that you're working with a seller and they're wondering why you can't sell the house. I've had to learn the hard way that I did open houses till my signs rotted and didn't know why the home didn't sell. I didn't know how to talk to a seller. So some of the concepts I want to get through, and I won't get them all through in the next 3 or 4 weeks. However, maybe you'll stick with me. It's going to be totally free, is basically to make you bulletproof in a presentation. Now, there's lead gen calls, which you learn about in Bull. And then there's going to be care and concern calls that turn into lead gen calls. And that's why that's the first thing Gary says, lead generation. Next, then, okay, what we're going to be working on, we'll do some of that if you want, happy to do it. My specialty is winning at the table. You make the lead gen call to get the, how do you win at the table? Because you don't list a property over the phone. You don't sell a property over the phone. And I'm putting that in air quotes because, you know, right now you might have your meeting with them via Zoom because of COVID and technology. All right. So what I want you to, next slide here, trusting you still see that. Here is the key. Here is the key, you guys. Being able to ask the right question. So Peggy, you're not, you're there, right? And you can unmute yourself if you want to. May I just talk to you for a second? Love people from Kentucky. All right, so.
Absolutely. And yes,
Peggy,
we can see your screen.
Peggy, you're having a party at your house and you've invited me and my wife. We're coming over and I'm, it's maybe one of these windy roads. My GPS doesn't work right on my phone. I call you up, Peggy, I'm heading to your house and I'm lost. Help me get there. What instinctively is one of the first questions you would ask me?
Tell me exactly where you are right now.
Now, hold that thought just for a second. When we meet with a potential buyer or seller, that's the question we should be asking. Where are you now? Where are you mentally in the thought process of what the market's doing? Where are you in the buying process, etc.? It's not about, let me just see if I can't spew on you enough words and memorize presentation crap that will basically you'll cry uncle then want to list with me. You ask them where they are. And the most crowded state in the nation is what we call the state of denial. And there's no right or wrong. However, when you find out where they are, the only way you can do that is by asking questions. So what I'm going to be working on with you is this topic right here. It's question-based, listening enhanced conversational scripts. Now, I don't know what that says to you, except this, is that if I'm on the phone, so let's just role play with this, Peggy, we've never met, we've never talked before. I'm just going to say, Peggy, I'm lost. I don't know where you are. You would say to me what?
Tell me where you are right now so I can talk you through.
Okay, I don't really know where I am. I know that I passed a Chick-fil-A down the road and I can see a Cracker Barrel sign up ahead of me.
Awesome. That lets me know where you are. You're about 3 miles away. You missed the turn back at the Chick-fil-A.
All right. Now, all right, then what do I do next?
Turn around.
Okay.
Find somewhere to U-turn around. Go back to the Chick-fil-A and turn right.
See, now, did you have to memorize that?
Not at all.
The questions are instinctive, you guys. And as you take these customers as they come in, everyone is an individual. We must, first of all, understand where they are, where they're mentally, and it's a series of questions. Then everything else follows. I've taught this. My wife and I have taught around the country a little bit, and they say, oh my gosh, can you give us a list of your questions? Absolutely not.
Right.
Peggy didn't need them. It's instinctive.
Well, and it kept me from panicking also, right? Because I wasn't having to worry about what to say. I knew what to ask you.
Well, the other thing is she knows where she lives.
Right.
I'm going to teach you concepts that you will know beyond a shadow of the doubt where you reside and what your role is and how you can help them. She could help me get to her house because she knows where it is. And if she were just to get on the phone and start telling me stuff, imagine we just start giving directions. Well, you want to go on Highway 45 and you can see how can you see if you were really lost? I mean, you're not even listening because you don't even understand what they're saying. It changes, you guys. It changes when you ask, where are you? Like, for example, I'm going to go forward here a little bit. I'm going to go forward a couple of slides. This is one of the best questions to ask people when you meet them somewhere early in the relationship. Buyer or seller, it really doesn't matter. And this, I call it the meat thermometer because it's like you're taking their temperature, and the script is like this. It works for a buyer or seller. You can take a screenshot of that or take out your phone, and I'll find a way to get these recordings, make them available to you. In fact, they're going to be available to you on my YouTube channel, which is Denny Delivers on YouTube. Here, Magic. So Peggy, I'm staying with you. Hey, listen, Peggy, you're a potential buyer. You come into my office. Let me ask you, Peggy, you know, we'll get to know each other a little bit and say, well, as we start the process, you know, based on your opinion of the market, and there's no right or wrong, do you feel the market's working in your favor or working against you?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, this whole COVID thing, I think that makes it work against me, don't you?
Well, it might be. Tell me more.
I was afraid to even come in here today, and I can't imagine people wandering through my house during this period of time. So I'm really concerned.
All right. And then what now, did you, before I go into that, which could be a role play, do you see I'm asking them where they are? You have no earthly idea what's going through their brain. If you're working with a couple, you've got two brains there that you have to figure out. Now, doesn't that make maybe your presentation easier, because you don't have to memorize a bunch of stuff and you're just asking them where's the starting point? I mean, I never was a waiter or a waitress, and many of you guys may have done that through your, you know, your earlier years or school years. When someone comes in, you ask, what would you like to have? And so, and the thing that drives me crazy about it, and they say, well, you know, what's good here? You know what answer I really hate? Everything. Stupid. Well, what are you hungry for? Well, I don't know. What do you have? Well, we got chicken and seafood. See the level of questions that will help them break that down. Now, going back to where I was, good questions and great questions. This is foundational stuff, and we'll get into some role play. There are no bad questions. The only bad question, I say tongue in cheek, is I did ask a lady one time early in my career when the baby was due and she wasn't pregnant.
Oh,
So
no, you did not.
That's not a good question. You all agree with that, right? Based on that, there are no bad questions. There's good questions and great questions. Now, why we want to get to the point of asking great question is this. When we meet someone and you're on the Zoom call with me, your level of engagement is only going to be so long. Now, some of you might be playing Candy Crush already. However, I mean, so when you're on a presentation, you don't have an infinite amount of time to be there. I mean, they only have an attention span so long, right? So you want to get to the point where you're asking great questions. For example, if I were to pull out a card out of the deck of cards, so I'm holding a card. A good question would be, is it a two of hearts? Now that's a good question because that's a yes or no answer, right? It's not a great question. A better question would be, is it red or black? Because now you've just separated the deck in half. Peggy, I'm going back to you. You're my favorite today.
I'll take it.
Okay, so we've not rehearsed this. This is an example of a good question or a bad question. Now listen, because the second part of my class, it's question-based, listening enhanced. This is a relatively new discovery in my career, is that I'm listening better because I don't have to think about what to say. I'm listening. And there's magic when you listen, particularly if you active listen, you know, there's no sin in taking down the words they say, because the words they say matter to them. And you feed it back, there's almost magic. So Peggy, let me give you a good question, not a great question. Peggy, what month were you born?
July.
Ah, what day?
The 6th.
Nice. Well, now that was a good question because I learned something. However, it's not a great question because I bet Peggy already knew that. I bet Peggy already answered that a bazillion times. She did not know that. I mean, she didn't learn anything by that. Here's a great question. Peggy, if you could choose any month of the year to be born in, it can't be July. What month would you like to have your birthday in?
Oh gosh. Well, Having had a summer birthday my whole entire childhood and not being able to be with my friends, I'd want to have a birthday when kids were in school. So I think October would be a great month to have my birthday.
Have you ever been asked that question?
I have never been asked that question in my whole life.
Now, the rest of you guys that have observing that, what did she do? Oh my, that is called thinking. We want to make people think. And thinking equals processing. Because remember the bold law, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. And particularly in this market right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. COVID equals uncertainty. Uncertainty brings fear. Fear is an emotion. Logic makes them want to buy. Fear, emotion makes them afraid to buy. And the only way to counteract that emotion is to ask them questions that make them think. Because then when they speak it out, many times when it goes from the emotion, and the brain answers a question, it goes out from them, and then it comes back and feeds into their ears as logic. And many times they think, they'll look at each other and say, that makes no sense, does it? You are breaking the logjam of emotion by asking great questions that make them what? Think. Because every decision a buyer or seller has to make has a potential consequence. I don't want to buy because of COVID. Okay. Are you then, for example, and this is something we'll talk about, there's a script that we use called the side effect or the prescription script. I understand. So let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And I'm not isolating it. I'm just going to take this one right here. If the doctor were to give you a new prescription, would you want the doctor to take a few minutes to explain the potential side effects? What would a rational patient say? Peggy?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm not your doctor. I'm your real estate professional. Would you be interested in learning the potential side effects of not being interested in buying or selling during COVID?
Sure.
Because I'm not buying until COVID's over. It's not a logical decision. It's based on a lot of emotion. Now, this is not some sort of fancy voodoo that we're going to make people do something they don't want to do. No, we are coming totally from contribution. Gary talks about it in shifts on page 186. When there's a lot of uncertainty, the buyers and sellers are looking for someone to come alongside them and say, hey, look, it's going to be okay. Like, for example, in one of my presentations, I use the example of your children. If you've raised kids and you took them to the first day of kindergarten, children fall on one end of the spectrum or the other. They either run in there, they're happy, they don't mind. The first day of kindergarten, the first day of school is called uncertainty. Some people run in, have no concern whatsoever. Then you have the clinger that's not going in, right? That hangs on to mom or hangs on to dad or just hangs on to the light pole or whatever. They're not going in. That's what a lot of buyers and sellers are feeling right now in this market. Gary says that we need to go alongside them, put our arm around them figuratively, and give them the reasons why they should consider making another decision. And understand we're all people. And most of the time, I think you guys would admit, there's more power if somebody were to ask you questions than just start telling you all the reasons why you should do it. In fact, I would have probably been a better parent. My kids are grown now. If I'd asked more questions than I did a lot of telling. So understand, I trust you've taken notes between good questions and great questions. Even in a role play scenario where you're actually attempting to be that buyer or seller, I've seen it so many times, it becomes almost a real play because as you're accepting that role and somebody asks you a question, even though you're kind of like digging in, you're not going to list. When they ask you a logical question, it's like, wow, that was a great question. You're making me think about it now. So the formula we're going to use moving forward is this. This is what I want you to write down. Take a picture of it if you need to. This is the formula. They teach it in the classic bold. They don't really go into a lot of this in the bold, like Bold October. Although you notice most of the instructors used a lot of questions. And when you get up to a higher level, that's kind of like, that is the epitome of our science, of our craft, when we can ask questions. The acknowledgement part, okay? The acknowledgement part is important. For example, here are some ways you can acknowledge. I understand. I see. Okay. I can see why you're saying that. I've heard that from others. Perfect. Awesome. Groovy. From Canada, knuckle bump, whatever you want to do. Those are ways that you can acknowledge someone. And you want to make them feel like, I'm tracking with you, dude. I'm tracking with you. Versus saying, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. So you're acknowledging it. Now, certain personality styles, if you understand the discs, the I's and the S's are probably good at that. Some people are just very good at it. The D's and the C's, we probably have to work on that. So you want to acknowledge. The next part is the magic part. It's the isolation. Even in some of the role plays I've seen on Bold Pivot, and again, this is just the way I'm teaching you the way I play chess. There's more than one way to play chess. A little side note, if you have Netflix, they have a mini series out there called The Queen's Gambit. Really, really good. A lot of people have talked about it. It's only about 7 or 8 segments long or whatever. And it's quasi true story. Anyway, The Queen's Gambit is actually an opening chess move. And there's only so many moves, and it's a very popular one. I'm teaching you the way I play a chessboard. Now, notice they have doubles in tennis. They don't have doubles in chess. Why? Because chess is a game that's strategy, meaning sometimes you move pieces to set up another move. Likewise, when you are with a buyer or seller, the strategy of what we do is sometimes we can ask a direct question and get right to the heart of it. However, there's more power in triangulating them and walking them into, and I say this kindly, a trap. Sometimes when you get them to that point where they say, I never thought of that. So now when I do a role play, it might be different than when my wife does, or Jake or Molly or some of the other map coaches. That's just a different way of playing chess. No value of judgment to that whatsoever. However, I believe it's important, if you write this down, make sure you understand the isolation. The isolation's key. And what that means is unload and unpack. I've got a little visual for you right here that helps you lock this into your brain. And over the next several weeks, as we go through this, and I trust you'll have enough courage to role play with me as an agent, so I can use a little sandpaper on you and maybe give you some pointers. Is I will always ask you to isolate. If you skip the isolation, I'm going to have you go back to it. And this is why. When someone brings up an objection, the natural thing, you can acknowledge it. I understand. Well, let me tell you why you shouldn't think that way. Let me give you some information to counteract that. What we want to do is we want to start laying on facts. Now, number one, that's not question-based. And even if it was question-based, is there a possibility, you guys, there could be another concern they've not voiced yet? Yes. And so you guys have some experience here. Has anyone on this call been in working with a buyer or seller, and you think you just, deserve a merit badge for how well you answer the objection, and then they don't sign the paperwork, they don't move forward because they have what? Another objection. Well, then you get out, spit in your hands, you go after that one and you handle that. And you think, well, that's awesome. I'd that's a 10, and they don't move forward. It's why? Because you haven't unloaded the car. So when you go on vacation, someday you'll be able to do that again. And when you go to the grocery store, which is still legal, you go to the grocery store and you get your car full of grocery bags or whatever. I mean, you might do this. I don't think most people do this. You don't take 2 bags in, put them on the counter, put everything away, put the vegetables away, and put the bags in recycling and go get another 2 bags. I would think most people kind of unload the car, then unpack the bags. When you go to vacation, you don't take the two suitcases into the house, unload everything, dirty clothes here, put the clothes in the drawers, go get 2 more suitcases. Does it make sense, logically speaking? Speak out, you guys. Does it make sense that you will unload, then unpack?
For sure.
And if you don't, what happens is we end up playing whack-a-mole with our clients. Because every now and then, just when we think we got everything handled, another mole pops his head out and we got to go after it. And what's interesting about this is this. When you have someone has some concerns about not wanting to move forward, and we'll role play this in a second. When they give you a list of 2 or 3 things, 4 or 5 things, 6 or 7 things, now you're going like, I might just refer you out to somebody else. The question you want to ask is this: Everything is questions. You won't hear me make a statement, you guys. You won't hear me make a statement throughout the whole presentation. I'd like you to get to that point. Now, that doesn't mean I don't give information. I get information out, however, I do it in a question format. So when they give you a list of 3 or 4 things, the next question you want to ask them is, okay, well, Peggy, based on the 3 things you just listed there, which one is the most important to you right now? What does that cause them to do? That causes them to think. That causes them to prioritize. That causes them to think a little bit different. Meaning, Peggy, what month would you like to be born in? That's a great question. And 9 out of 10 times, they're going to say, well, it's really that. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to address the other ones. Sometimes it does. However, it gives you a roadmap to follow. So when basically, imagine we are like the waiter, the waitress that goes up to someone that's not really sure what they want to eat. And so you just start saying, well, I'll just start at the top of the menu and start reading down. If something sounds good, let me know. Well, you know, our salads are really good. Our escargot is really good, blah, 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 blah. When you can ask a question, basically, well, would it be, would you want seafood or beef? Would you like soup or salad? That type of thing. So y'all getting my drift. Then you are going to, after you, and I have one more slide to show you here. In other words, this is another way I'll say it. You get to the center of the Tootsie Roll Pop. Now, any comments, any thoughts, any ahas on that's the format that we're going to follow the next 4 weeks. It's going to be acknowledge, isolate, answer, and close. Did you learn anything yet?
Yes.
Okay, let's have some fun. So I have, I got 23 people. So let me just go here to participants for a second, make sure you guys are mic'd up. Give me a second, okay? Because I'd like you to be able to talk. Next time we'll meet, and don't go until I give you the dates when we're meeting. All right, so that's most of you guys. So here is the objection, and I'll pull the screen down in a second to make sure I can get the rest of you guys on here to talk. So we want to sell. However, we want to wait until COVID is no longer an issue. So let me stop share just for a second. And you guys that have, if you'd like to talk, let me just give you one more second to give you the microphone if you want to talk. I need someone to role play with. You can be the seller. That's going to be the objection. So you got the easy part.
I'll role play with you, Denny.
And Jeff, where are you from?
I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, Northern Virginia.
Are you KW?
I am KW. I just came back to KW, went to Mega Camp and got blown away and took Bold and then signed up for your class and started a script practice group at my own office.
All right, Jeff, you know my buddy James Nellis.
Gene who?
James Nellis. He's with the Nellis Group.
Oh, yeah, James. Yeah, absolutely. Know him well.
All right, so the objection is you're the potential seller. We want to sell, however, we want to wait until COVID is no longer an issue. So now then the formula is I understand. So other than that, Jeff, is there any other reason why you wouldn't move forward with me today?
I mean, other than having a lot of people come through my house, I think that's my biggest concern right now.
Okay, so I understand that. I mean, a lot of people have that concern. Now notice what I'm doing here is I get in the habit of attempting to write down, even if you're on the phone or even if you're sitting with them, make some notes. So you're concerned about a lot of people. Any other concerns you have about taking advantage of the market right now?
Well, I mean, I guess the only other concern would be maybe that I don't get as much money for my house right now because it is harder to show.
Okay. Now, notice the natural reaction would be for a lot of agents to hop on that and say, well, you know how strong the market is. And you're starting to go ahead and start drilling on this before you got all the bags out of the car. Listen, if you forget your eggs in the car and you happen to leave them in there 3 weeks, it's going to start to stink for a while. So what I want you to do is make sure you clear out all the bags. Well, that's a good point, Jeff. All right. So you're concerned about how much money you get. What other current concerns do you have that we can settle today in order to get you to move forward?
Well, I guess my only other concern is I would have to figure out where I'm moving to next. We're still kind of up in the air about that.
Now, in this particular market right now, that concern is a large one. I mean, people want to sell and take advantage of the market. They kind of know they get more money than they ever thought possible, although they're not really sure where they're going. That's a pretty easy one to handle. We can handle that. Now, the rest of you guys can, you're in a quiet spot. You can come off mute if you give input. So he's given me 3 now, and then that one was nowhere. It doesn't have a house yet to move into. Okay, well, notice he was, now you understand why you keep asking, right?
Right.
Because he's starting to surprise me. Like, all right, this is only like a 10-minute role play, Jeff. I don't have any more. Okay, so I get that. So anything else, Jeff?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I really would like to get a bigger place. So I'm tired of being cramped during COVID.
Now, all right. So now he mentioned something, a bigger place. So when I go to talk about his next house, what words am I going to use? A bigger place. Not a larger house, not a mansion, a bigger place. Now, and again, it takes a little bit of practice. And again, it all has to do with my technique in playing the chessboard, is that a natural reaction would be to start digging. Well, tell me what that bigger place looks like. Now, that's his motivation. You guys understand, in our clients, they are not raising their hands. I can't wait to move. I can't wait to sell my house. They don't want to. No, just the way we don't want to raise our hand. I can't wait to go to the dentist to have my teeth drilled. You go to get the root canal for the benefit of getting rid of the pain or protecting your teeth. It's the benefit. Moving is the ugly part of this. Who likes to move? I mean, I'd hate to be a mover. It's the selling process, it's the process. That's why we get paid what we do, is we help them in the process. They're not calling us because they're looking forward to the move. In fact, don't even talking about getting your house sold. It's getting them into their what? Larger place. So Jeff, now I'm not going to drill there yet. Now you've come up with some interesting things here. So of the ones you listed there, your COVID, and I can't read my writing here.
Has to move.
People coming through my
People
house.
coming through the house, not as much, to make sure you may not be able to get as much money because of COVID and nowhere else to go. Which one seems to be the biggest concern for you right now?
Honestly, the biggest concern for me right now is people coming through my house and, just taking that risk of my family, having strangers in our house.
Now, how many of you were surprised at what he said? I was, because you're going to assume it's always about money, and it wasn't, or I have nowhere to go. So are you saying, Jeff, that if you can become comfortable with the process where your families feel safe, are you saying you'd be ready to move forward on getting your home activated on the market today?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that's my number one priority. Obviously, where I'm moving to and what we sell the house for are important, but I think that is my biggest concern. Yes.
I get it. And those are valid. And so I understand, because I want to make sure I answer all your questions. I've taken good notes here. If I can cover those items, are you open to getting your home exposed to the market now?
I am open to getting, yes. Yes, I am.
Now notice I'm not going to ask him all the time, are you willing to list your home with me? Although here's the thing I want you to understand. We can get away with asking any question you want as long as you ask it in the right frame, right? And and Gary says, and understand, this is not manipulation. I am not attached to the outcome because I'm going to be the professional and give him, no, I'm going to help him self-discover the pros and cons of him moving now or later. I'll let him make the decision. There is no pressure in that. It's like when you go to the doctor, he can ask you all kinds of personal questions. He can say, would you please put this gown on and leave it open in the back because it's appropriate for the time and the place. So let's talk about that just for a minute. So which one of those would you like me to cover first?
Let's talk about how we can get our house the exposure it needs to sell it while still protecting my family. Cause that really is my biggest concern right now.
Right. Well, all right. Now notice, have I made any statements yet? This is what question base is all about. Now he's leading with that one. That's the second time that he's led with that one. What signal might that give you guys? It's important to him. He's concerned about his family. So let me ask you, Jeff, what precautions would you think would be acceptable based on your level of concern and risk factors that you might have in your home?
Well, I mean, if people have to come in my house, I certainly, would only want people that are sincerely interested in buying it. I wouldn't be open to any open houses or anything like that. I mean, I feel like we'd want to limit exposure as much as possible, and make sure they're using all the, CDC protocols of safety and I don't want to obviously have my family come home and people are running around my house, not wearing masks and things like that.
Now, you see the power in me asking what that would look like from his world versus just us as agent answer. Well, I tell you what if we just have everyone come in with masks, shoes, and what do you call it? Gloves, masks, and booties. Oh, that'd be okay. I wouldn't get the other stuff. That's part of the benefit. Okay, so, and he wants qualified buyers. So let me ask you, would you feel comfortable, because in their world, they're thinking the old market. So if we can get people that are qualified only, that are serious and motivated and not looky-loos, no open houses, make sure they don't touch anything. They have masks and gloves on, and we do it at a controlled time that won't interact with your family, would that give you peace of mind?
Yeah, it absolutely would. I mean, that would certainly help a lot. I mean, I guess the other concern would be that, my son is doing school online from home. So trying to get showing schedule would have to be worked around that as well.
Well, just as a sidebar, guys, in this market we're in, this is a super seller's market, right? I've never seen a market like this. I call it the GOAT market, the greatest of all time. I got that from Brady. We got Brady, you don't. So in this market, is it possible a seller can dictate terms in which someone's going to look at their home and the buyer or / the market will accept it? Absolutely. Now, I'm just going to give you another little twist on this. I'm going to take Jeff to a little bit of an extreme. Let's say, listen, I'm not. Now, let's just stay with us. Then we'll maybe come back to it if you want to. So, all right. So I get that. So again, would it be okay then if you give me the times that would be available for showing that would not interfere with his schoolwork? Would that be acceptable?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we can follow those protocols up front, will that satisfy the safety concern you have for your family?
I think so. I'd be interested in hearing, exactly the plan to do all that. But yeah, I think that would. Well,
it's pretty simple, Jeff. I'm working for you, whatever. If that's the plan, that's how it's going to be executed. No ifs, ands, or buts. Those are the requirements. If somebody wants to see your home, they'll see it during the times at which you allow. They will be CDC compliant, and the agent will understand that those are the requirements.
Oh, that sounds great.
So you feel that's okay now? I mean, if that takes place, you're good with that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think if we can do all that and work it out that way, I think that will, alleviate a lot of that concern.
See, he's still giving me a little bit of EBGBs because he's at a lot of it, and I'm not going to drill any more on that. Although I did note what he said. That's the listening part. He didn't say all of it. So when you start listening acutely, they're dropping little bits, right? Okay. So for the sake of the role play, we'll get on. So Jeff, then you mentioned 3 things, and so we're pretty good on that. What would you like to talk about next?
Well, I think the other 2 items kind of go hand in hand. I mean, we got to figure out where we're going, but we got to make sure we, sell our house for enough money to get there. But I mean, I don't want to take a bath on my house because of COVID-19. So I want to make sure that we get the right money for the house. And if we can still do that with all the restrictions that we're going to put into place.
Right. So let me ask you, what is your expectation number-wise of the mark that you would like to get out of your house?
Well, based on all the money we've spent in the last 5 years updating it, and knowing that it's, it is kind of what I think most people want nowadays from all the pictures I see online. I mean, I'd like to hope that I could get, on the higher end of the average here in this neighborhood. The other townhouses seem to all be selling somewhere between 535 and 570. I would love to be closer to that 570.
Are you talking about sales price?
Yeah, what I've seen in the neighborhood. Yeah.
It's an important question, guys. Many times I've learned this the hard way. They're throwing out a number and they're thinking net, not sales price. Get clarity, because clarity is power, right? So tell me about, your word. You want to make sure you have enough money to go into your next home. Do you need to sell this home in order to buy your next home?
I mean, I think so. I think if we can get that price point that I'm talking about, I mean, I ran some rough numbers and I feel like that would give me, 30% down on the new house that we're looking at. And, so I can get the best possible terms and feel really comfortable on the, my new mortgage on the new house.
Now, it's really important because when you're dealing with sellers that want to buy and they have to sell first, let me ask you a question. What are they, a buyer or seller?
They're
Fine.
ultimately a buyer.
Well, they're actually not a buyer. They're just a hoper until they sell.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So help them to come to that conclusion. So that's why I asked the question, do you have to buy first or sell? Now notice I didn't go into some sort of fist fight or CMA dialogue about the numbers. I don't care about the numbers yet. I don't care about the numbers yet. I'm attempting to find out where he is. Now they might answer, well, hey, that's why you're here. You have to tell me. Well, okay, that'd be another conversation I'd have. Okay, so I guess the question is, have you been shopping online for the area for your larger place?
We've been looking at some of the single family homes over in West Springfield, and we feel like, the houses we like tend to be in the $700,000 to $800,000 price range, a little bit larger ones. So, I mean, I have an idea, but I haven't really went and looked at. I've just seen some on Zillow.
So obviously one could get into the, have you been pre-qualified yet, blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of like skipping that stuff. I haven't gone deep into motivation because of time. I'm just giving you different chess moves here of questions you would be asking. What I'm attempting to do is triangulate him a little bit. And so I want him to self-discover that if he cannot buy until he sells, then he's a seller. So I asked him if he's seen this stuff out there. Has he been shopping online? Because a lot of people, if he says yes, then let me ask you this. Now I'm going to give him the meat thermometer. Let me ask you, there's no wrong answer. Do you feel like the market's working in your favor as a seller or working against you, Jeff?
I mean, other than COVID-19, I feel like, right now, houses seem to be selling and I think it's probably working in my favor, I would guess.
Okay. And do you think it's working in your favor or against you as a buyer?
I mean, it seems like that's where it's a little tougher right now from what I've heard people talking about in the market that, in the news, they've even talked about how there's such a lack of inventory. But on the other hand, I know rates are super low right now, and I'd like to take advantage of that, I guess.
Interesting. When you ask that question in many of the role plays, you would think the buyers would say, well, it'd be an awful market to buy in. Many times the buyer says, well, I think it's a great time because of what?
Low rates.
Interest rates. So now he has just set himself up to win as a seller, in his words, win as a buyer. Now, okay, so let's talk in terms of what would be ideal for you and your family. Would you want to sell first, then buy, or buy first, then sell? Assuming the numbers came in at your 560, 570 range.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely like to have that locked in, I think, before we, commit to a house that we're ready to buy.
So then you want to sell first, correct?
That's right.
So do you have any concerns of selling before you identify the house you move into?
I mean, how does all that work timing wise? I mean, I haven't, this is the first time I'll be selling and buying. I just wouldn't want to it'd be kind of a hassle right now to be stuck in between without a place to live with COVID-19 and everything.
I get that. Now, what's interesting is this, guys, I'm about ready to put a bow on this one, and we'll open it up for questions or any feedback you want to give me, is that this is where a lot of sellers are. And I asked him the question, how would you feel about being in between? I'd not offered to solve his problem yet. I can solve his problem. However, I'm choosing not to. I'm leading him down a logical path of the process to go by. He might have said, I was role playing with someone today on another call. They said, well, yeah, I have no concerns about temporary accommodations. In fact, I own a rental property. I'll just move into that. The problem is solved just by asking the question instead of us having to solve the problem. So here's a great script that you can use in this market because it's the GOAT market, right? Well, Jeff, how would you like to have your cake and eat it too?
Well, that always sounds fantastic. How do I do that?
Well, there's no calories. Here's what if we did this? What if we set up the COVID standards, the CDC standards on your home, your family safe? What if we then expose it to the market with the stipulation that we're looking for a particular buyer. This particular buyer doesn't really want to move in right away. And there are a lot of buyers out there. For example, you're that buyer too, because you know what? You would like to sell first before you buy. So what if we put in a stipulation that when the buyer were to give you the price that would be satisfactory to you, that they would then allow you time to rent back your townhouse until you're ready to move into your new larger place?
Oh, we can do that?
Yes. If we could do that, would you feel comfortable moving forward with me today?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I really think that addresses all my concerns.
You see, now that is, you can speak, I'm not reading the chat. I guess you have the chat. No, just it'd be easier for you just to like unmic yourself, give me some or Jeff some feedback. Jeff, you can give me some feedback, how you felt with that. Was that realistic? Is that something you could do?
I mean, I felt like for me, which is how I try to conduct my own business, is I felt like you were asking questions and helping me come to a decision and a conclusion without ever making me feel like you had an agenda and that it was about you or about you getting a sale. And I think the way you asked those questions led me down that path that allowed me to self-discover that, hey, we can make this work. And you never once got into the weeds with trying to overcome each objection and just start spewing out things. So I just think that was really well done.
Well, wouldn't that be the highest compliment one of our buyers or sellers could give us, regardless of what they did? Hey, listen, it sounded like you really cared about me. You weren't trying to sell me something, and I didn't force a lot of stuff and this and that, and this is what you should do. And this is what the market said. This is the best time to sell. I didn't go down that. That's telling. And if people have motivation and they're rational, listen, when you look at the bell-shaped curve, you got to look at the middle, all right, the probable. There's outliers in everything. And you might meet with a buyer or seller that's Freddy Krueger, right? Well, you're not going to work with them, right? However, if people are rational, they have real concerns. And you know what? There's real choices for them to make. It's as simple as you're watching the ball game and you're really into that. What's the name of your team up there, Jeff? You don't even have a name for that team, right? You're the Washington team, and you're watching. You get hungry. I'm like, all right, I don't want to leave the couch. It's really good, and I want Cheetos. I got to go in the other room to get Cheetos. Well, I don't want to leave the game. There's no one to get them for you. What's your choices, guys? Sit there, be hungry, or walk away from the game and get the Cheetos. Buyers and sellers have the same decision. Every potential decision a buyer or seller chooses has a potential side effect. It's just our job to help them evaluate it in a 360 format. And you said it, literally, and write this down, you guys, do not be attached to the outcome. I am not attached if Jeff decides to sell now or later, because my intention is to be in dialogue with him, to be in a relationship with him, that I will be ready when they are ready. However, it would be malpractice for me to allow him to make a decision without understanding the consequences he's making. Because the bottom line in him is this, you could hear it in his voice. Somebody tell me what was the driving force for him. What did you hear?
Protect his family.
His family. So imagine someone that doesn't want to sell because of their concern of COVID for their family. They wait until the market starts to go down, and instead of 570, they're going to get 450. So do you think someone would make a cognitive decision if you can satisfy the safety of your family and put the 570 in your pocket instead of the 450? Would that be better for your family? Would you make a $120,000 negative equity decision? No. Now, we don't know what tomorrow is going to be. However, we know it's not going to last forever. Any other comments on how we demonstrated a series of questions to come to that point? Now, I know we didn't get into the numbers. That's one of the things that I will do on the next calls, is I will help you understand that our role, in my opinion, this is Denny. We don't set prices. I don't set prices for sellers. I don't set prices for buyers.
Sure, I understand.
Oh, who's Siri? I'm talking to Siri. Siri's on my call. It's not our job really to set prices for buyers or sellers. It's all about setting expectations. So, who's next? Who would like to throw in an objection or a concern or something, and we'll role play. We'll do another role play. We have time to do that. Oh, that was my watch. Sorry. Said that. We've got time.
Could he be based on a contingency? You know, he can purchase a house based on his selling his house.
Excellent question. Now, all right, so can we be pragmatic about it? What seller who's got a well-priced listing in this market is going to take a contingency?
I guess, yeah.
So, I mean, so I would say if is that Loey?
Yes.
All right, Loey. So yes, that can happen. However, we're going to have to look at a different segment of properties. Now, let me ask you, do you know why the best homes sell first?
Because they're more marketable, or?
No, yeah, they're the best.
They're the best.
And the other group of homes that don't sell they're called the leftovers. Now, they're not selling because they've got some issues, maybe pricing issues. So if you were a seller, now this is reverse positions. If you were a seller in this market, which is white hot, write that down, white hot, and you had more than one offer and people were offering you your asking price and sometimes even more than your asking price, and they're cash or they're solid contracts, would you at all consider someone, hey, would you consider my offer? I'll buy your house. However, I have to sell mine first. Would you do that?
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah.
So my question, Loey, is do you want one of the best houses, or do you want to go over here and work with a seller that's got a problem?
I want the best house.
Is that bad? Is that negative? Was I mean?
No.
Is it the truth? All right, good question. Any more? Come on, we got time. I'm on a roll. Part of this black belt class, you guys, come on, this is a dance. So this is where we like speak up, right? I know a lot of Zoom calls you don't get to talk on. This is different.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a potential seller that want to buy in the same scenario that you're doing. She wait on the money from selling her house in order to put down. So in this case, what should I do?
Is it listed?
No, not yet. She waited to find a property. She won't sign a listing with me until she figured that out.
Okay, so Elizabeth, let me ask you. So when you find this property that you want to buy, first of all, can you buy it without selling? Does that question sound familiar?
Yes.
Can you buy it without selling?
No.
Then when you find it, what are you going to do?
That's a question I did ask her.
No. Stay and roll.
Oh, okay. I guess I try to get pre-approval.
Well, what are you going to do with, what are you going to tell the seller? Are you going to write them a contract and say, I'm going to buy your house when you find the house?
Correct.
How can you do that if you can't buy it until you sell?
Because I have a lot of stuff in my house. I don't have time to pack it up and eliminate the stuff. It's
Right
my
now,
mother's house.
I may not be understanding. However, that she can't buy this house she's seen until she sells, correct?
Correct.
What are
She's
you going to
also
tell? Hang on. What are you going to tell the seller? Hey, I want to buy your house, yet I have to sell mine first.
that was her intention. Yes.
Okay, and what if the seller says no?
And then she just lose it.
Then she's going to have to go after one of the leftovers. All right, because if it was the same thing I just said, if you were a seller and you had people that wanted to buy your house, would you take a contingency? That's kind of like saying, tell you what, you found a cat. I want this cat. I really like this cat. You're going to put the cat over here. That's that seller. You're not going to buy it because you can't buy it. You're not going to take the contingency. Now, cat, you don't move. Don't move. I'm going to go back and sell my house real quick. And when I get my house sold, I'll come back and get you. What's the probability that cat's going to be there?
None.
None.
Slim to none.
None. And so, if people are rational, they're going to get that. However, a better avenue would be, how would you like your cake and eat it too? So how about if we basically put your home on the market so we can get top dollar in this white hot market, and you have 30 days, 60, what would feel comfortable for you in order for you to go and then find a house and shop? I want 6 months. Okay, so what if we could find a buyer that give you your number and you could stay in that house, you can rent it back for him for 6 months, up to 6 months until you find something. Would that make you feel comfortable? Yes, no, maybe, I don't know. The bottom line is, can you work with that? Yes. Listen, as you will hear me say over and over again, real estate is about physics. There are laws that will not be violated, and there's rules that will work, and I want you to internalize them so you're bulletproof. And if I went over to your house and said, listen, I want a margarita, and there's no ice, and I say, I have to put the ice cube trays, and Google that if you're a millennial, I have to put the ice cube trays in the freezer to make some ice. I say, no, you don't have to do that. Just put them in the refrigerator. Will you have ice? No, because you're not in the right environment. So there is a physics that's involved in pricing and how the market works that you cannot violate. I say this tongue in cheek, you guys, and we'll close with some ahas here in a second. You can't really win with crazy, although I'll take a crazy seller with motivation, because sooner or later the seller will capitulate or the market will catch them. This is what I say tongue in cheek, and let's just have a little chuckle. Although you may be with Keller Williams and Keller's on your sign, we're not Helen Keller. We're not miracle workers, right? There's only certain things we can do. And I want you to understand what those limitations are, because I worked too many years on homes that would not sell, thinking if I just open house them enough. I even thought about hiring the Blue Angels to have an air show, or Toby Keith to have a concert on the pool deck. None of that works, guys. I'm going to teach you solid physical principles. So when you have a conversation with someone, you're as solid as a doctor talking to someone about, like Greek wedding. Windex does not cure everything. So what were your ahas? Was this worth coming back? So I'll give you the dates we're going to have really quick. If you want the dates, I think the date is going to be, I think I have published this. Black belt. Okay. We're going to take Thanksgiving week off. Then it's going to be December 3rd. The next 3 Thursdays, 3rd, 10th, and 17th. We'll send you out a reminder. It's going to be from 1 to 2 Eastern time. I'm going to set up, I'm going to give you my Thursday class, which is typically another class. I'm going to do black belt, invite your friends or anybody else that wants to come if you find this is beneficial. Listen, you're not going to take this one time and think you've gotten it. That's like going to karate or watching Cobra Kai and the remake of Karate Kid and thinking you can do it. You can't do it.
Denny, you're moving the 4 o'clock time slot to 1 o'clock?
Yeah, it was only 4 o'clock this week. I'm going to move you in my normal time slot, 1 to 2 Eastern on the 3rd, 10th, and 17th.
Got it.
1 hour, and you'll get an email to remind you. Was there any ahas you guys had on this? This is where you tell me if there's anything beneficial. What was your aha? What did you learn today?
I like how you approach, keep asking them questions instead of you try to, figure out or let them figure out the answer. Like you figure out the questions to get the answer.
Okay. Any others?
Yes. Mine was the words they say matter to them. I thought that was fantastic.
Awesome. One more. Make me happy.
Yes, mine was that you never make a statement, you only ask a question.
Let me ask you this, and I'm not looking for an answer. I'm curious. Did it sound awkward to you?
Not when you say it.
Right, Catherine.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, that's because I've mastered the directions to my house. That's all you have to do. I know where they need to go to get to what they want. And I don't care where they are. I can help them get there, just like Peggy was giving me directions to her house because she knew where it was. You will learn that. Once you learn that, you're bulletproof in a conversation. It's question-based, listening enhanced conversational scripts. You don't have to memorize a bunch of stuff. Like if I'm going to your house for a party, you don't have to memorize that. You already know it.
I guess just training yourself to ask questions and not talk. That's hard for me.
Well, okay, so make it easy for you. Don't say it's hard because it will be hard. You are learning. You are a question machine. That's why this is not a one and done class. I want to invest my time so you can start to learn the art of question-based selling. So
Is there something you would advise us to look at between now and next week to work on that specifically?
yeah, you should develop a role play partner, and I'll see if we can't send out the recording of this, or maybe some things you can take some notes. And then I would encourage you to get a role play partner that understands question-based and role play. And there's scripts you can learn because a lot of the things I have are scripts. I just use them in a question. So this is day one. So your brain will be sore tomorrow. It's like going to the gym for the first time in like 6 months, right? I appreciate you being on. Spread the word. Let's get this up to, let's see if we can get 50 on this call on the 3rd.
Thank you, Denny. Your processes are perfect as always.
Thank you, Man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, appreciate
Thank
it,
you,
Denny. That
Denny.
was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you, Denny. Have a good night.
Denny,
Yeah.
question. How do we know who's on the chat that we can networking?
But I would write something,
We can't see it on outside.
I'm gonna switch it to meeting next week where you're gonna be able to see it.
Okay, great.
Not next
Thank
week, on the 3rd, okay? Happy Thanksgiving, you guys.
Happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.